The alien warrior lay immobile at the cold, hard floor, its chest heaving in shallow breaths as the ache coursed via its huge, armored frame. Its eyes, sparkling an eerie shade of blue, flickered open and closed, looking to recognition on the unexpected surroundings. It seemed to be somewhere on the outskirts of a small human agreement, its metal exoskeleton gleaming within the faint mild of the putting sun. The air turned into thick with the smell of burning wooden, charred metallic, and blood. The alien warrior should hear the remote cries of its very own type, calling out in pain and rage as they battled the people deep in the coronary heart of the settlement. It became then that the alien warrior noticed a set of human beings huddled round it, their faces contorted with worry and confusion. They have been talking in hushed tones, their phrases barely audible above the din of the conflict. One of them, a young woman with lengthy, raven-black hair and piercing green eyes, knelt beside it, her palms gently prodding at its chest. "He's alive," she murmured, her voice trembling with relief. The alien warrior struggled to talk, forcing air via its injured lungs. "Who are you?" she had controlled to croak. The human beings exchanged glances, seeming unsure of a way to respond. Then the young female knelt down beside it all over again, her face softening into a sympathetic expression. "My name is Sarah," she said softly. "We located you lying here, harm and alone. We do not need to peer everybody suffer, least of all you. So, we're here to help you." The alien warrior's gaze drifted lower back to the warfare, the sounds of struggle still raging in the distance. It knew that it must feel not anything however hatred for those humans who had saved it, however something approximately their compassion and selflessness struck a chord deep inside its warrior's heart. It felt thankful. "And my name is—" It started out, pausing to seize its breath. "Krell." As it spoke, it observed that the human beings have been reacting in a different way to its phrases. Their expressions had shifted from difficulty to surprise, even fear. It didn't understand why until Sarah lightly touched its shoulder. "Krell," she stated, her voice trembling with awe. "You're an alien warrior, aren't you?" The alien warrior nodded, feeling a bizarre mixture of pride and shame. "Yes," it said, its voice developing more potent with every word. "I am an enemy of your human beings, but I am also a warrior. And in conflict, there are no enemies, simplest honorable combatants." Sarah's eyes widened on the alien's words, and she or he glanced over on the others inside the group. There changed into a quick silence before she grew to become again to Krell. "Krell," as she stated, her voice steady. "We accept as true with which you are our best friend. We need your assist to cease this struggle. Will you combat beside us?" The alien warrior's blue sparkling eyes met hers, and it felt a bizarre combination of emotions: wonder, desire, and uncertainty. It considered her phrases cautiously earlier than "speak me." "I will recall your provide," Krell spoke back. But first, I ought to apprehend the nature of this warfare. Why are we preventing?" Sarah hesitated, searching unsure of how to give an explanation for the complicated politics and records that had brought about the conflict. Finally, she truly said, "Our worlds had been at odds for generations. We've been taught to hate each other, to look one another because the enemy. But we agree with that there have to be any other way. We trust that there are more essential things to fight for than just land and energy." Krell nodded slowly, soaking up her phrases. It understood the concept of warfare based on ideology and beliefs. In its own global, such conflicts had shaped the course of history. And yet, Something about Sarah's words resonated with it on a deeper degree. Perhaps it was the sincerity in her voice, the conviction in her eyes. Or perhaps it changed into the memory of the pain it had felt while it were left at the back of, wounded and on my own. Whatever it turned into, Krell knew that it can now not forget about the selection earlier than it. Very well, Krell stated, its voice steady. I will combat along you, Sarah. Together, we will discover a manner to stop this conflict and forge a brand new route for our humans. The others within the group exchanged excited glances, hopeful expressions lights up their faces. They helped the alien warrior to its FT, helping its weight as it struggled to stand on its injured limbs. Slowly, however sincerely, Krell regained its footing, and the group started to make its manner return towards the coronary heart of the agreement. As they walked, Krell turned to Sarah. Tell me, it said, what do your humans name themselves? Sarah smiled. We call ourselves human beings, she replied. But we hope that soon, we will be capable of find a call that everyone can use collectively, a call that symbolizes our unity and our shared motive. Krell nodded, feeling a new feel of reason coursing via its veins. It became a call it can get at the back of. A name that meant something. Then from this day forward, it said, its voice robust and clean, I will combat not as an alien, no longer as a warrior from another international. I will fight as certainly one of you. As a human. As they approached the heart of the agreement, the organization ought to see the primary rays of sunrise breaking over the horizon. The sky become painted with colors of crimson and orange, casting a warm glow over the worn homes and weary faces. There become an electricity within the air, a sense of hope that hadn't been there before. Word of the alien warrior's decision spread quick through the agreement, and people commenced to acquire round Sarah and Krell. Their faces were a mix of disbelief and pleasure, as though they couldn't quite method the news they have been listening to. Some cried tears of alleviation, others embraced each other in birthday celebration. But they all shared the identical experience of determination and solve. Krell discovered its self-status earlier than a crowd of masses, addressing them for the first time. A people of Earth, it stated, its voice booming across the gathering. I am Krell, an enemy turned best friend. I even have visible the depths of your hatred and the heights of your courage. And I recognize that together, we can give up this conflict and build a better destiny for every person. The crowd cheered, lifting Krell up on their shoulders. As it surveyed the sea of faces before it, the alien warrior felt a bizarre blend of feelings: delight, shame, loss, and benefit. But most of all, it felt a sense of belonging. A sense that it had subsequently determined its area within the universe. As the solar rose higher in the sky, the institution set off toward the closest battlefield, determined to bring peace to their worlds. And with each step they took, Krell knew that it became now not walking alone. It turned into walking with pals, with family, with people. As they neared the front traces, they encountered infantrymen from both facets, exhausted and conflict-worn, however filled with a newfound hope. Word had spread in their alliance, and the air was thick with whispers and murmurs. Is it true? They asked, eyes huge with disbelief. Can it be? Sarah nodded, her voice regular and strong. It is real, she stated. We have positioned aside our differences and are available collectively to quit this battle. And we cannot prevent till there's lasting peace. The squad dies, a number of whom had fought alongside Krell just hours earlier looked at the alien warrior with a newfound recognize. As they reached the negotiation table, the tension in the air changed into palpable. Representatives from each human and Krell management sat across from each other, eyes locked in a stare that mentioned centuries of distrust and hatred. But with Sarah and Krell by using their facets, something shifted. The air grew lighter, more hopeful. Krell leaned in, speak me with a confidence it had never recognized earlier than. We have fought lengthy and tough, it said, and we've misplaced an excessive amount of. Let us no longer overlook the instructions of the past, but let us additionally appearance to the destiny. Together, we will construct a world wherein our youngsters and their youngsters can stay in peace and prosperity. There were murmurs of agreement from across the table. Hours exceeded, and the negotiations grew extra excessive. But with Sarah and Krell as guides, they found a manner to cease this warfare and forge a brand new path for their humans. We will establish a joint peacekeeping pressure, Krell proposed, constituted of soldiers from each our worlds. This will make certain that such conflicts in no way stand up again. The representatives exchanged glances, weighing the concept carefully. Finally, the human consultant spoke. We receive your phrases, she said, her voice constant. We will paintings together to create a lasting peace. And with the one's words, a brand new technology started out. As the ink dried on the treaty, Sarah and Krell stood aspect by means of aspect, looking out over the enormous expanse in their worlds. They knew that the road ahead could not be clean, however they also knew that they were no longer by myself. They had each different, and that they had the desire of a brighter destiny. We did it, as Sarah stated, her voice trembling with emotion. We in reality did it. Krell nodded, its eyes shining with tears. Yes, it answered, we did. And with those simple words, the remaining vestiges of hate and mistrust dwindled away, replaced with the aid of a newfound feel of harmony and motive. A sense that they had been no longer enemies, but brothers and sisters in hands, united in their quest for peace and know-how. As the sun commenced to set over the horizon, casting a heat, golden mild across the battlefield, Sarah and Krell walked most of the soldiers from both aspects, sharing testimonies in their houses, their families, and their hopes for the future. They listened to the soldiers' tales of loss and sacrifice, and together, they wept for the lives that were taken and the worlds that had been shattered. But because the night time fell, and the stars commenced to twinkle inside the inky black sky, they found solace in each other's enterprise. They knew that the road ahead might be long and hard, however they also knew that they were now not on my own. They had every other's backs, and that they had the energy in their newfound friendship to peer them through. The negotiations that observed were fraught with anxiety and emotion, as antique wounds were reopened and grievances aired. But with Sarah and Krell as guides, they controlled to locate commonplace floor. They mentioned the establishment of a joint peacekeeping force, made of infantrymen from each worlds, to make sure that such conflicts in no way arose again. They discussed the sharing of resources and generation, in addition to the establishment of cultural change applications to promote know-how and empathy. As the times turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, progress changed into gradual, but steady. The squad dies, who had once been enemies, now labored side with the aid of side, learning from every other and forging bonds that would final a lifetime. The human beings of each worlds commenced to look the modifications taking location, and they too started to allow go of the hatred and fear that had fed on them for see you later. Finally, after months of arduous negotiations, a treaty becomes signed, marking the official end of the battle. As the ink dried on the parchment, Sarah and Krell stood before the assembled leaders of their worlds, their hearts swelling with pride and hope. They knew that their efforts had not been useless, and that the destiny they had fought so difficult to create become now inside their hold close. Together, they grew to become to stand their humans, their palms clasped tightly in an image of their unbreakable bond. We did it, they stated, their voices robust and clean. We added peace to our worlds. And as the cheers of the crowd washed over them, they knew that they had actually modified the route of records. In the years that accompanied, the joint peacekeeping force persevered to patrol the borders between the two worlds, making sure that the fragile peace that they had fought so hard to gain would bear. Sarah and Krell remained close buddies, traveling the worlds together, sharing their tales and their goals for a brighter destiny. They have been case in point that even within the darkest of instances, there is continually wish, and that with willpower and courage, something is possible. But because the peacekeeping efforts have become more established, they started out to acquire reports of weird occurrences alongside the borders. At first, those incidents had been few and a ways among. However, over the years, they grew extra common and extra troubling. There become talk of mysterious figures transferring via the night, unmarked ships appearing at the horizon, and peculiar transmissions intercepted through Navy intelligence. It turned into clear that a brand new risk changed into emerging from the shadows, and it turned into as much as Sarah and Krell to confront it. Sarah, now a respected fashionable inside the joint peacekeeping pressure, known as Krell to her command tent one night. The solar became setting over the horizon, portray the sky with shades of orange and crimson. Krell, she said, her voice grave, I've been hearing reviews of strange interest alongside the borders. It appears there may be a brand new hazard emerging. We have to confront this head-on earlier than it's too overdue. Krell nodded solemnly. I've been listening to similar things, he replied. We should act hastily and decisively. Our peace has come at a remarkable price, and we can't allow it to be taken from us now. Together, they devised a plan to research the mysterious occurrences similarly. They might break up their forces, with Sarah Maina set to scout the terrain and accumulate intelligence, while Krell remained at the back to coordinate protective measures in case of an assault. They knew that this would be a dangerous mission, but they also knew that they have been higher prepared for the project than everyone else. As they organized to leave, Sarah became to Krell and positioned a hand on his shoulder. And no matter what happens, she said, her voice steady, we'll face it collectively. We've come a long way to allow something stand in our manner. Krell nodded, his expression grave however determined. Their forces cut up, shifting silently through the darkness. The moon cast a pale glow over the terrain, revealing the occasional shadowy determined darting between the rocks and timber. Sarah signaled for her institution to halt as they approached a small clearing. In the gap, they might see the faint glow of a campfire. Carefully, they crept forward, using every bit of cowl they may discover. As they drew nearer, they started out to listen whispers in a language they didn't apprehend. It turned into clear that they had stumbled upon the enemy camp. Sarah gestured for her squad eyes to form a circle around the camp, at the same time as she and Krell moved forward alone. They crouched behind a large boulder, the usage of it for canopy as they surveyed the camp underneath. The enemy forces numbered round 50, all armed and properly trained. What do you suspect, Krell? Sarah whispered. Should we attack now? Krell shook his head. No, he spoke back. We want to acquire greater records first. If we assault too quickly, we should lose the element of wonder. They watched as a determined approached the campfire, their hood drawn tightly over their head. That should be their leader, Sarah murmured. Let's try and take them out first. Together, they crept forward, their hearts pounding in their chests. When they have been near enough, Sarah raised her weapon and took goal on the discern at the hearth. In a swift movement, she fired, striking their goal rectangular within the again. The discern crumpled to the ground, silently. As the enemy infantrymen scrambled for cover, Sarah and Krell moved in for the kill. They fought with a brutal efficiency, their years of education and enjoy serving them well. Soon, the enemy camp became in ruins, their forces scattered and defeated.